Chapter 14. Get Out of My Life. Meanwhile, back in Lewisham, Kate had just arrived for lunch with Jan at Sarah's house. "Where's Mother?" Kate asked. "I brought her these flowers and some Belgian chocolates and a whole lot of soaps and shampoos." "She's out for the day. Cindy's taken her out. They've gone to Brighton. It'll do them both good," said Jan. "You mean she's not here? That's a bit much," said Kate. She was obviously angry that her mother wasn't there to see her. "After all," she said, "I am her daughter, and it's her 80th birthday." "I know," said Jan. "It's a pity you didn't remember that before." "But you knew I was coming," accused Kate. "Yes, I did, but I didn't see why Mother shouldn't get a treat on her birthday. Anyway, you came to talk to me about your idea, not to see her." The conversation throughout lunch was difficult. The sisters tried desperately to find something to say to each other that wouldn't start another argument. Over coffee, Jan finally asked the question they both knew had to be answered. "So, what's this idea of yours about dealing with Mother and her condition?" Kate sighed. "I told you, it's a bit complicated, but I'll try to make it as simple as I can." "Okay, go ahead." "Well, you don't have the money to pay for care for Mother." "No, you know perfectly well that I don't," said Jan impatiently. "Yes, but what about her?" "What do you mean? She only has her pension and the money Dad invested for her. I checked up what it costs, and she certainly doesn't have enough to pay for the kind of special care she needs." "That's true," said Kate, "but she owns the house. It's a big house. This area isn't particularly fashionable, but the house is still pretty valuable. House prices are rising again, and anywhere in London is always good." "Surely you're not suggesting she should sell the house," said Jan, starting to feel her anger rising inside her. No, of course not. There's no need to sell it. I think there's a much better way for all of us, Jan. Let me try to explain. What a lot of old people do these days is this. They make an agreement with someone. This someone agrees to pay them a regular amount of money every month until they die. But when they die, the house becomes the property of the person who has been paying the money every month. It's a risk for the person who agrees to pay out the money. If the old person lives for another 20 years, it's a very bad investment. They could end up losing a lot of money. The main thing for the older person is that they have some degree of comfort for the rest of their life. I didn't think it was such a good idea when Hugh mentioned it first, but when I thought about it carefully, I could see the advantages for Mother." "And who do you think would make an agreement like that with Mother?" "Well, I've discussed it with Hugh, and we've agreed that we could pay Mother £1,500 a month. I know that wouldn't cover everything, but it would certainly help. It's at least something we could do to make her life more comfortable. After seeing how she was when she came to stay, I can see how she can't go on like this, and neither can you." "Are you serious?" said Jan, her voice becoming excited and emotional. "Do you mean to say that you and your millionaire husband are planning to treat Mother like an investment on the stock exchange or a bet on the horses? You're betting her life against your money, hoping she'll die sooner rather than later. Ugh, you make me sick." But Jan, listen, it isn't like that. Just think, Mother is 80. She's weak and losing her memory, but there's nothing seriously wrong with her. With luck, she could live till she's 100. Just think what that would mean. We could pay her more than £300,000. So we wouldn't exactly be making a fortune out of it. We just thought it would be a good solution to the situation. Nothing more than that. We certainly don't think of it as a gamble on Mother's life. I'm not that heartless, you know. But you are. How can you be so calculating, so cold? Jan said sharply. We're talking about your mother, not about a property investment. It's not about profit and loss. It's about a human being. I think you've lost all your human feelings. You're like a machine programmed to make money. Can't you see how disgusting it is? What's wrong with you? If you can afford to pay her £1,500 a month, then just pay it. Don't expect to make a profit out of it. But Jan, we're just trying to be helpful. It's a very reasonable offer. Everyone does well out of it. It gets Cindy away from having to act as a nurse for her grandmother. It allows you to get on with your new job. It makes sure Mother is properly looked after. And Mother doesn't lose anything. She would go on living in her house till she dies. OK, we get the house at the end of it, but we will have paid for it. Kate, I was going to make you coffee, but I've changed my mind. I think you'd better go. I really think you'd better leave before I throw you out. You're disgusting, calculating, selfish. I don't know what else to say. Get out. And take your flowers and your chocolates and your other rubbish with you. Don't bother to contact us again. It's over. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a sister anymore. She took Kate to the front door, pushed her out, and threw the flowers and the rest of the presents out after her. Then she banged the door shut and burst into tears. Chapter 15. Italian Birthday Lunch. Back in Brighton, Cindy had found a cheerful-looking Italian restaurant for lunch. There were a few tables with big umbrellas outside on the pavement. She managed to push Sarah's wheelchair up to one of these tables. "Hello, signorina," said the young Italian waiter. He was very handsome, Cindy thought. "Buongiorno, signora," he said to Sarah. "You having a nice day?" Sarah didn't even look at him. She was staring across the road at the sea, but her eyes were empty. "Is it your mamma?" he asked Cindy. "Oh, no, she's my grandmother," said Cindy. "Ah, la nonna. Lovely hat, signora. I get you the menu." "Yes, please," said Cindy, "but I'm not sure what she'll eat. She's a bit difficult. But today is her birthday, so—" "It's her birthday? Oh, lovely. How old?" "She's 80 today." "Mamma mia, 80 anni. Wait, I go tell my papa. He'll come to see you." And he rushed inside and came back with a smiling, middle-aged man with a round belly covered by a large white apron. "Buongiorno, signore," he said, and bowed his head to Cindy and Sarah. He turned to Sarah. "Is your happy birthday? Happy birthday. I make you something special, okay? You leave it to me. Leave it to Paolo. First I bring you some water and some wine. We make the happy birthday brindisi, toast, okay?" "Where's my tea? I want a cup of tea," demanded Sarah. It's all right. No problem. I make you a cup of tea. A few minutes later, the son, whose name was Giovanni, brought them some mineral water, a bottle of Chianti wine, and a cup of tea. He then produced a plate of antipasti, Parma ham, olives, cheese, sausage, and tomatoes. "Here, Gran, try some of this ham," said Cindy. "Is it cooked?" asked Sarah suspiciously. "It's special, Gran, from Italy." "I don't want any of that foreign stuff," said Sarah. "I want some fish and chips." "Gran, this is an Italian restaurant. They make lovely food, and the owner is very nice. Come on, just try a little." Cindy served herself with a large helping. She felt really hungry after their morning on the pier and began to eat. "It's delicious," she said to Giovanni when he came back. "But my Gran is terribly difficult about her food." "It's okay. You enjoy it, okay?" Just then, his father came back with 4 wine glasses and poured the wine. "Okay, everybody. What's your nonna's name?" "Sarah." "Lovely. Okay, Sarah. Let's drink to your happy birthday. Just a little drink, not much, okay?" He smiled sweetly at Sarah, who was delighted by all this special attention. She picked up her wine glass carefully, as if she was afraid to drop it. "Okay, everybody. Here's to lovely Signora Sarah for her 80th birthday. Salute! Cheers!" They all drank. Even Sarah sipped a little of the wine. "This isn't bad," she said unexpectedly, and she emptied the whole glass in one go. "Can I have some more?" With her glass refilled, Sarah said loudly, "I don't think I'll have my tea after all. You can take it away if you like. And, excuse me, but have you seen my mum and dad anywhere around? I heard they were coming today, but I haven't seen them so far." Cindy made a sign to the men not to take any notice of this strange question. "It's okay, Gran. I think they've gone somewhere else today. Let's have some food." "Excuse me, young man," said Sarah to Paolo, the owner. "Can I have some fish and chips?" "Oh, I'm sorry, Signora Sarah, but we don't do the fish and chips. It's not Italian, you know." "But I want fish and chips," demanded Sarah. Paolo and Giovanni had a whispered conversation in Italian. Then Paolo said, "Okay, it's your birthday. This time, I'm making you the fish and chips. Special one, okay? Italian style." Sarah didn't seem to have heard him. She was staring at the sea again, lost in a world of her own. They were at the restaurant for nearly 2 hours. Sarah got her fish and chips, Italian style. Cindy had some tasty ravioli and a delicious veal dish cooked with herbs called saltimbocca alla romana. They finished their lunch with a big chocolate cake. Paolo had written on it in cream, "Happy birthday, Sarah." When Cindy asked for the bill, Paolo refused to let them pay for the wine, fish and chips, or cake. "It's for happy birthday," he said with a big smile. All Cindy could do was to thank him. By the time they left, Sarah was looking tired but happy. This was hardly surprising, as she'd managed to drink 4 glasses of wine. Giovanni and Cindy had given each other their telephone numbers and agreed to meet again sometime. On their way back to the car, Sarah fell asleep in the wheelchair. It was difficult for Cindy to get her into the car. As they set off on the return journey to London, Sarah woke up again. She seemed upset about something. "What's the matter, Gran?" asked Cindy. "Do you want me to stop?" "Where's my mum? Why didn't she come? Have they taken her away? You don't know anything about them. Did you see them? It's all plunky, boodle-doodle-doo. I can't answer all the plimsy-whimsy questions. Why do they keep asking me all those questions? I don't know the answers." After a while, she stopped talking to herself and fell asleep again. Getting back to Lewisham took a long time. The roads were full of cars driving back into London after a day at the seaside. And the roads in South London were even worse, with traffic stopping and starting. It was 7 o'clock by the time Cindy parked the car outside Sarah's house. Jan came out to help Cindy get Sarah into the house. They took her upstairs straight away and put her to bed. "Have you had a good day, Mum?" asked Jan. Sarah seemed confused. Then her eyes brightened, and she said in her best voice, "I've had a lovely day." Then she began to sing again. "I do like to be beside the seaside." Her voice got fainter and fainter, till it stopped. Her eyes closed, and she fell asleep with a smile on her lips. Chapter 16. Time to Face Facts. When Kate arrived home from Jan's, Hugh was already back from his golf. There was dirt on his golf shoes, so perhaps he really had been playing golf this time. "Hello, darling," he said in a tired voice. Kate noticed that he had an empty whiskey glass on the small table next to him. He saw the direction of her look. "Do you think you could pour me another one?" he said, opening the business pages of the Sunday newspaper. "I think you can get it yourself if you really want to poison yourself to death," Kate said. "I've been driving and I'm tired. I need a shower. I'll tell you about what happened when I come down." All right, said Hugh, and got up slowly from his armchair as she went upstairs. When Kate came down again, Hugh was still reading his newspaper and sipping his whiskey. She wondered how many glasses he had had so far. "So, how was your dear older sister Jan today? I hope she was in a better mood than last time." "She looked okay, but she made me really angry. Mother wasn't there, and it was her 80th birthday. I'd bought her flowers and chocolates and everything. Can you believe it? Jan had let Cindy take her to Brighton, of all places. I was furious. I'd gone all that way to see her, and she wasn't there." "Really? I'm sure Jan only did that to upset you. But your mother's birthday wasn't your main reason for going, was it? So, what did she say about our offer for the house?" Hugh asked. "She said she couldn't believe what I was telling her. She said it was disgusting to gamble on how long Mother would live. She said we weren't human beings anymore, just machines for making money. She said a lot of things like that. Then she threw me out of the house. So the answer's no. And now I think about it, I'm not surprised. Jan's always been like that. Hot-tempered, emotional, never logical. She can never think straight." "Oh, well, we tried anyway," said Hugh, though there was disappointment in his voice. It seemed he had really been hoping that Jan would accept their offer. "Never mind. At least we don't have to do anything more now that she's refused our help. We don't need to worry about Jan and your mother now. It's a pity about the house, though. That was a really good opportunity. He picked up his newspaper again, but this time Kate knew the moment was right for them to talk. She couldn't delay it any longer. There had been too many suspicious things going on. It was time to clear the air once and for all. "Listen, Hugh," she said in a tight, nervous voice. She really wasn't sure how to start this conversation. "I think it's really time for us to have a proper talk." "What do you mean? Talk about what?" he said, opening the newspaper. "For God's sake, will you put down your newspaper and listen to me for a change? I'm trying to talk to you." Hugh put down his newspaper and took a sip of whiskey. "OK, darling, go ahead," he said in a cheerful voice, though his face didn't look cheerful at all. "And can you stop drinking just for 5 minutes? This isn't a joke. I'm serious. We have to talk." "Fine, but what about exactly?" asked Hugh, looking bored. "About us. I want to talk about us. About our marriage, Hugh." "What do you mean? What's wrong with our marriage?" asked Hugh innocently. Kate thought to herself how men always tried to avoid unpleasant things, but she went on. "What's right with it? That's what you need to ask. We hardly ever see each other these days. You're always going off here or there. Half the time I don't even know where you are. And when we are in the house together, you have your nose stuck in the newspaper or in a glass of whiskey. It's months since we really shared a meal together or talked about anything important." "Oh, come on, darling, it's not as bad as that." "Oh, yes, it is. In fact, it's worse. We never make love any more. It's over a year now. You're always too tired. But I wonder if that's the real reason anyway." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that you have someone else." "Oh, come on. How can you think such a thing? When do I have time for that sort of thing? You know I'm working flat out on my investment fund." "Hugh, please don't take me for a fool. I've known you for over 25 years now, and I can read you like a book. First of all, what about all those times you told me you were playing golf? I don't know where you were, but you certainly weren't at the golf club. And what about the nights that you didn't come home? And what about all those missed calls from Melper on your mobile phone? I wonder what dear Melper needed to talk to you about so urgently." Hugh's mouth fell open. He hadn't been expecting this. "So," said Kate in an ice-cold voice, "what's going on? I want to know. How serious is it? Do you love her?" Hugh looked down and didn't answer. His face had gone bright red. "Come on! I want to know. Is it Melper? Do you love her?" Instead of answering, Hugh took a large drink of his whiskey and began walking nervously up and down. "Look, Kate," he said at last, "I don't know how to begin. It started a few months ago. I ran into Melper in London one day, and we went for lunch, and somehow one thing led to another till neither of us could do anything about it. It's so easy to start these things, but once you're past a certain point, it's impossible to stop. Yes, I do love her. I'm sorry, Kate. God knows what we're all going to do. You know perfectly well what will happen if her husband finds out. He'll do his best to ruin me." "Right, Hugh. Thanks for being honest with me. At last. If that's how things are, I want you to sleep in Jeremy's room tonight. The bed is already made up. I don't want to see you in the morning, and I suggest you move into the flat in London until we've sorted out the divorce." "Divorce?" said Hugh. "Who said anything about a divorce?" "I did," said Kate in her cold, unfeeling voice, "and I meant it." Surely you don't think I'm going to just sit there like an idiot while you do whatever you want to. Oh, no. This marriage is over. It can't go on. Then you'll be free to marry your Greek beauty, if she still wants you by then. Good night. Chapter 17. There is a time. Next morning, when Cindy took Sarah her tea, she didn't answer her when she said cheerfully, "Good morning, Gran. It's another lovely day." She pulled the curtains back and let in the bright May sunshine. "Come on, Gran. Don't let your tea get cold," she said as she went back downstairs to prepare Sarah's breakfast. Half an hour later, she came back carrying the tray. She noticed that Sarah hadn't touched her tea. "Come on, Gran. You've let your tea get cold. Let me get you a fresh cup," she said. But when she looked down at Sarah, she realized that her grandmother would never drink a cup of tea again. She had stopped breathing. Sarah was dead. There was a smile on her lips, and she looked peaceful, as if she had died in a sleep full of pleasant dreams. Cindy sat down on the bed, her head in her hands, crying helplessly. She realized just how much she'd grown to love this crazy but lovely old lady. All their times together came back to her. The funny words Sarah had made up, her changes of mood, her forgetfulness, her old songs, and above all, the birthday trip to Brighton. Cindy dried her eyes with a handkerchief and sat up. She knew she had to do something quickly. The first thing was to tell her mother. She called Jan's office number. "Mum, I'm sorry, but I have some bad news for you. Gran died in her sleep last night. I thought she was asleep when I took her tea, but when I came back with her breakfast, I saw—" Cindy's voice broke as she started to cry again. "Oh, Mum, why did she have to die like this? We didn't even have the chance to say goodbye to her properly." There was a pause before Jan spoke. "It's a shock for us both, I know," said Jan. "But just think, maybe this was the best way for her to die. She had a lovely day out on her birthday, thanks to you, and it seems she died in her sleep, without fear and without pain. Thank goodness for that. But oh my God." Cindy heard her mother suddenly break down in tears. She soon recovered. "Listen, Cindy, call the doctor immediately, then just wait for me. I'll tell my boss, Dave, what has happened, and I'll be back with you in about an hour. Don't try to do anything else till I get there, right?" "Okay, Mum. I think I need a strong cup of coffee to keep me going. I'll wait for you." Cindy was a bit surprised to see her mother arrive outside the house in a car. "Dave was so sweet," said Jan as she came in. "He gave me a lift home. He was very understanding." "That was really good of him," said Cindy. "What shall we do first?" "I want to go up and sit with Mother for a few minutes before we do anything. Please wait down here. I just want to be alone with her." "Okay, Mum. I'll make you a cup of nice strong coffee while I'm waiting." When Jan came down again, she looked pale and upset, but she smiled bravely. "Oh, she looks so peaceful," she said. "It's almost as if she's just sleeping." I half expected her to sit up and ask one of her crazy questions. But I'm glad she went like that, without suffering. Yes, I'm glad too, in a way, but I wish I could have told her how much I loved her before she died. It's okay, Cindy. I'm sure she knew that. You had some wonderful times together, and she went out on a high. I'm sure she knew. Right, now, where's that coffee? We need to make a list of all the things to do. They sat together at the kitchen table with their coffee and a notepad and started the long list of people to contact. Death is simple for the person who dies. Once it's over, they have nothing left to do. But for their family and loved ones, there are hundreds of things to be done. The doctor has to come to write out the death certificate. The undertaker has to come to make the arrangements for the funeral. And of course, all the family members and friends have to be told. Then there has to be a small party after the funeral. The solicitor has to be called to arrange for the reading of the will. And later, someone would have to deal with whatever Sarah had left. The house, her belongings, the money in the bank, and so on. The list seemed to be endless, yet these things had to be done. It seems unfortunate and unfair that just when people should be left to grieve over the death of someone close to them, they have to get involved in all these practical things instead. As soon as they'd completed the list, Jan started to make the phone calls. It was early evening before she had finished. The funeral was arranged for the following Friday. She had just put the phone down after the last call when it rang. She answered it. "Hello, Jan here. Who's speaking, please?" "Hello. Can I please speak to Cindy?" The voice sounded foreign. "Just a minute, I'll call her. Who shall I say it is?" "It's Giovanni from Brighton." Jan called Cindy, who took the phone into the lounge and spoke for a long time. When she came back, she was crying again. "Oh, Mum, sometimes people are so kind. That was Giovanni from the Italian restaurant where I took Gran for her birthday. I told you about him and his dad. He called to ask me out next week, but as soon as I told him about Gran, he got very emotional. He says he'll tell his father. He wants to know if they can come to the funeral too. He says they liked Sarah so much, even though they only met her once. He says his father will call us again later." "That's really sweet of them," said Jan. "I can't see why they shouldn't come. There won't be that many people. Most of Sarah's friends are dead too, and the family isn't very big either." "Oh, my God, family! I forgot to call Kate. Do you think she might be interested?" said Cindy with a bitter smile. "I must tell her, of course I must. I know she's been really awful about Mother, but she is her daughter. She has to be told. I'll keep it short, though." She picked up the phone again and dialed Kate's number. "Hello, Kate, it's me, Jan. I'm calling you to let you know that Mother died in her sleep last night. The funeral will be next Friday. We'll be sending out cards tomorrow as soon as I can get some made. I hope you can all come. Do you think Hugh and Caroline and Jeremy will be able to make it? Anyway, I'll send cards to you all. I have to run now. There's lots to do, as you can imagine." Oh, my God. That's a shock. I don't know what to say. No need to say anything to me. You know what I think of you. That hasn't changed. Just let me know who's coming, that's all. And don't bother to send flowers. Send some money to the Alzheimer's charity instead. I hope Jeremy will be able to come. Caroline's in Brussels. I don't know if she can get away. And Hugh... Hugh will definitely not be coming. We're living separately now. You might as well know that. I see. Serves you both right, I expect. OK, then, that's it. Good night. And Jan put down the phone. Later that evening, after the doctor had been and signed the death certificate, death from natural causes, and the undertaker had been in to take the body away and lay it out in his memorial chapel, Jan and Cindy sat together and shared a bottle of good wine and some cheese. They were both exhausted, too tired to prepare a proper supper. They agreed that Cindy should go back to their house and Jan would sleep there at her mother's. So the long day ended at last. The funeral took place the following Friday as arranged. It was a rainy afternoon, and there were only a few people there. Jan and Cindy, of course, Jan's boss Dave. He really did seem to like Jan. A couple of Cindy's friends, Kate and her son Jeremy. Corrie, she had insisted on coming when Kate told her the news. A few neighbours, and Giovanni and Paolo from Brighton. Jan and Kate didn't speak to each other. Sarah had always said she didn't want to be buried in the earth. She wanted to be cremated. And she had told Jan that she wanted her ashes to be scattered in the garden of her house, where she had spent so many happy years before her husband died. The crematorium felt a bit like a church, but there was no religious ceremony. Sarah hadn't been a believer in any religion. Jan and Cindy read some short poems, and Jan said a few words about her mother. Then, as the recorded music played, Vaughan Williams, The Lark Ascending, the coffin rolled smoothly towards the entrance of the oven, disappeared inside, and was swallowed by flames. Outside, Jan and Cindy and Kate stood and shook hands with the people who had come. Behind them, smoke rose from a tall chimney. "Please come back to our house for some refreshments," said Jan. Most people started to leave the crematorium, but Kate and Jeremy waited for a moment. "I think we'd better go," said Kate. "Jeremy has to get back to Cambridge, and I should be getting home too." "OK then," said Jan. "I wasn't really expecting you to stay anyway. I'll let you know when the solicitor calls us for the reading of the will." And she turned and walked away, leaving them standing in the rain. Back at the house, the guests were soon in conversation. Most of it was about Sarah and how everyone had liked her, even if she had become so strange in her old age. They didn't stay too long, and soon Jan and Cindy were left to clear up the plates and glasses. "Giovanni seems like a nice young man," said Jan. "Yes, I like him a lot," said Cindy. "He's asked me out when all this is over." "What did you say?" said Jan. "Why, yes, of course. I'm not that stupid, Mum." "Of course you're not. His dad was very lively too. A very warm personality. Such a cheerful man." "And what about Dave? He seemed very worried about you. Is anything going on between you two?" "Come on, Cindy. I'm 54 years old and well past my best. Why should he be interested in me?" "Let's see about that," said Cindy with a smile. The following week, Jan and Kate met in the solicitor's office. The solicitor, who had looked after the family's legal affairs for many years, knew them both, of course. The will was in one of those long legal envelopes, which he opened with a special silver paper knife. The will wasn't a long document. It must have been arranged by their father before he died. Sarah wouldn't have been able to do it herself, although she had signed it. The solicitor read it out aloud. Kate got the house in Lewisham with all its contents. Jan got what was left of Sarah's savings, about £50,000. As usual, Kate was the favourite daughter, and Jan got the leftovers. Jan and Kate signed the documents and left without speaking to each other. Chapter 18. Things fall apart, things come together. Only a few weeks after Kate and Hugh separated, things started to go badly wrong for Hugh. He had moved into their small flat in London, and Kate hadn't spoken to him since their final argument. And, to make it worse, Jeremy and Caroline had turned their backs on him too. Kate simply tried to get on with her life while the divorce was going through. Then, one evening, Hugh called her. His voice sounded strange, as if he'd been drinking, and Kate wondered how much he'd had this time. "Listen, Kate," he said, "I'm in deep trouble. Everything has fallen apart. Clarides found out about Melper and me and took all his money out of the fund. Then he persuaded Mazumdar to do the same. When Manningham found out, he took his money out too. The whole fund has collapsed, and now the others are coming after me for the money they lent me. I have nothing left, even the house. I had to offer it as security, and now they'll take it away from us." "You what?" shouted Kate. "You gambled with our house without telling me, and now you've lost it? What am I supposed to do now? Where am I supposed to live?" "It's all my fault, I know," said Hugh. "I was a fool to borrow so much. I thought it was safe, but now—" "Now you're in a hole," said Kate in a hard voice, "and you don't know how to climb out of it. So why come to me? What do you expect me to do? You've ruined my life too, especially if they take the house. My God, I wish I'd never met you." "I can't think straight," said Hugh in his thick, drunken voice. "And they may call in the police too. There were some things I did." "Look, Hugh, I have enough to do to save what I can of my own stuff. I can't get involved with yours too. You made your choice. Now you can live with it. Don't bother me again. Understand?" And she put down the phone. Kate was a quick-thinking, realistic woman. She realised that there was no hope of saving the house, so she had all the contents packed and put into store. Then she and Corrie moved into her mother's old house in Lewisham. Jan only found out about this when they met in the local supermarket by chance one Friday evening. "What are you doing here?" Jan asked, completely surprised by this unexpected meeting. "Something happened. I needed to move out of the house in Marlow, so I've moved into Mother's place. Strange, isn't it? I never expected to find myself living here again. But—" For once, Jan couldn't find any words. She wanted to complain that Kate couldn't just move in like that. But of course she could. The house was hers. It wasn't Jan's business any more. "Well, I wouldn't have chosen to move back here, but I had no choice. Hugh's investment fund has collapsed, and he's being chased by everyone who lent him money. At least I have somewhere to live. And actually, the old house is really quite comfortable, and there's plenty of space. It needs to be repainted and modernised, but it's got lots of possibilities, and the garden is still lovely." "Yes, the garden," said Jan. "I was going to contact you about that. I've still got Mother's ashes at home. We need to arrange to scatter them in the garden. That's what she wanted." "So, when do you want to do that?" "Well, I suppose now that you're there, it will have to be at a time that suits you," said Jan. "Well, how about next weekend, Sunday afternoon? Is that okay?" "I'll need to invite a few people too. Cindy and Giovanni, her new boyfriend, my boss, Dave, Corrie, if she's with you. What about your kids?" "I don't think so, Jan, but I'll be there, of course. Do you want Corrie to prepare something to eat or anything?" "That would be nice. Just some snacks and drinks will be enough. Don't go to too much trouble." "OK, let's say 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, then." "Right. I'll tell the others. And I'll bring Mother's ashes with me." It was a perfect June day when they all gathered in the garden of Sarah's house. There was a light breeze. Jan took the heavy pot containing Sarah's ashes and threw a handful in the air. The breeze caught them and blew the white cloud across the grass and the flowers. She handed the pot to Kate, who did the same. Then it was Cindy's turn. They took turns until the pot was empty. Sarah had gone back to her garden, just as she had wanted. No one spoke for a while. Everyone was remembering Sarah in their thoughts. Chapter 19. Forgive and Forget. 6 months after Sarah's death, things were finally settling down for Cindy and for Jan. Jan gave Cindy some of the money from her mother's will. Cindy decided to use it to help pay for her training as a chiropodist. So far, she was doing well in her course and was expecting to qualify in about 2 years' time. After that, she was hoping to open her own business. She had got rid of her green hair and removed most, but not quite all, of the rings in various parts of her body. After all the wasted years, her life had suddenly improved. She'd found something she really liked doing. She'd also found someone to spend her free time with. After the funeral, she'd started seeing a lot of Giovanni. They were planning to go on holiday to Italy together later in the year. After years of dull living with no hope of anything better, Jan had started living life fully again. Things were going well at work. She was promoted and got a pay rise. The money she got from Sarah's will wasn't that much after she'd given some to Cindy, but it was enough to give her some security at last. She could afford to go out to eat in her favourite Thai restaurants again, and she could go to the cinema whenever she wanted. She redecorated her house, too, and bought herself a small second-hand car. Best of all, she could make new friends again, and she began to see Dave regularly. As time passed, Jan began to feel that she could forgive what Kate had done, though she would never forget it, she thought. Life was too short to go on hating someone forever. And now that Kate herself had suffered so much from her breakup with Hugh and losing her home, Jan felt it was time to heal the wounds between them. After the Sunday when they scattered Sarah's ashes, they saw each other occasionally for coffee or lunch. Kate had changed a lot too. She was more relaxed and less selfish. So one Sunday lunchtime, they found themselves sitting again in Jan's small kitchen, eating a roast chicken and drinking red wine. A better bottle than the last time. Soon it would be Christmas again, and Cindy had gone off to Italy with Giovanni. They would be back for New Year. One evening, Cindy called Jan from Italy. Her voice sounded very excited. "Mum, can you guess? Giovanni's asked me to marry him." "Oh, I can't say I'm surprised," Jan said, laughing. "And what did you say?" "I said yes, of course. He's lovely, and I feel it's the real thing this time." "Well, I hope you'll be very happy together. Have you fixed a date yet?" "No, not yet. He needs to talk to his dad first." "Maybe the spring would be a good time. Or do you want to wait till after you finish your training?" "I don't know. There's so much to think about. What about your love life, Mum? Has Dave asked you yet?" "Well, he took me out to dinner the other evening, and yes, he did ask me to marry him." "And what did you say, Mum?" "I said I needed time to think about it." "You said what? Why do you need time to think about it? What's stopping you from marrying him? He's a great guy. He loves you. You love him too, I think." "Well, I just thought I shouldn't rush into it, that's all. I mean, it didn't work out very well with your father, did it?" "Oh, come on, Mum. There's no comparison. Just think how lovely it would be to have someone around who really cares about you, especially now that I'll be off your hands soon." "I just want to do the right thing, that's all. I'm too old to make another mistake." "Mum, try not to be silly. This is the best thing that's happened to you in years. Promise me you'll call him up as soon as I put the phone down. Go on, promise." There was a short pause, then Jan said, with laughter in her voice, "OK, Cindy, you win. I promise." "Good. That's that settled then. Hey, I've just thought of something. Why don't we have a double wedding? You and Dave and me and Giovanni. Think about it. It's a great idea. Anyway, Mum, I mustn't go on any more. You have a phone call to make. Don't forget, you promised. Good night, Mum. Speak to you soon. Love you." "Bye, Cindy. Love you too." Jan sat for a while, lost in thought. Then she picked up the telephone again and dialed a number. "Hello, Dave? It's me, Jan. I've been thinking, and